Hello, hello, and welcome to this week's episode on As It Relates to Podcasting. This month, all month long, we are talking about podcasting launch fundamentals. We are talking so many different aspects about the launch phase of your podcast. And this series this month is going to be with just me. And I want to talk to you about a couple things as we're going through our entire series. Today's episode is going to be all about 4 key aspects that you need in order to start your podcast. So these are 4 fundamental things that you need in order to start your show. Now, before we get into any of the juicy content, I want to tell you about my new membership program. And before you hit that fast forward button and skip through all the details, let me tell you exactly what it is and who it's for. First of all, it's $11 a month or $121 per year, which is an amazing deal if I do say so myself. And in this membership, it's essentially a resource bank for podcasters, creators, podcast managers, podcast producers, and membership, you receive so many different assets and resources and documents and production schedules and templates to help make your production process easier, to help make your launch process easier, and overall to just help you really dial in on your production process of your show and the growth strategy behind your show, the marketing strategy behind your show, and all of the above. So if you're looking for a way to market your podcast in a way that is not stressful, or to launch your show with strategy behind it, and you don't want to pay so much money for a producer to do that launch for you, this is the resource bank for you. And I promise you, you are absolutely going to love it. The people who are already in this membership have been using these different documents to help streamline their production process, but also to help them elevate the quality of their show and the quality of the product that they're putting out there for their listener. So the link to check it out is in the show notes below. I highly recommend you click on it and you take a look. And if you're feeling called, come join me in there, because every single month we add brand new resources in 5 different categories. So there's launch resources, growth resources, monetization resources, and a few other amazing ones as well. So be sure to go and check it out so that you can get all of the details. So the link for that is in the show notes. Now, today, I want to talk about 4 key things that you need to start your podcast. And I want to start here because these are some of the fundamental things that you need to do when you are launching your show. Now, we're going to start with your podcast name. So you want to think about your podcast name in a way that's catchy. So you want this to be something that is memorable because it drives so much for your show. It drives the marketing of your show. It drives the content creation of your show. It drives the topics. It drives the listener engagement. It drives the searchability. So sometimes when a name is too clunky or too out there or too eccentric or what have you, it can actually be a bit detrimental because you are then making it harder to search for, and people aren't typically using those words to search for your show. So you want to make sure that you have a name that is catchy and one that actually gives the listener insight as to what they're going to learn on your podcast. And you want to make it clear for them as well. Now, one of the things that I hear all of the time from my clients and from potential clients and people all over social media is, but every single name is already taken. And while, yes, that might feel true, it also is not, that not every single name out there is taken. You just might have to get a little creative. So what I like to do is I like to brainstorm all of the name ideas that I have, and I like to write them down. And I like to filter through which ones I love and then which ones I don't love. And then I actually like to take it and put it into ChatGPT to help me create a few different variations of the name and give me some different options, because that creativity, because using ChatGPT in that way allows me to become a little bit more creative because I'm looking at words placed in different ways and placed together in different ways. So it creates a whole new set of options that you may not have been thinking about originally by yourself. So once I go through and brainstorm all of these different names, I filter the ones that I love and I filter the ones that I don't. And then once I've landed on some key options, what you can now do is you can take that and you can poll your audience on social media to see how they feel about the name, what resonates with them, and what they really like. And from there, whatever winning options you have, you can do a Google search. And you want to do a search on all of the podcast platforms as well to see if that name pops up. But simply doing a Google search is definitely really, really, really helpful. And it allows you to see what other types of names are out there, what is in your category, and also what does the marketing and the branding look like for those podcasts as well. So super key strategy to take when it comes to creating a name for your show. Now, I want to know what you think about this. So let me know in a comment, or let me know in a review, or let me know by giving me a 5-star rating on this little segment here. I would be super appreciative of that. And also, you can let me know throughout how this is resonating with you, because you can find me on social media and we can chat all about it. So that is what I would recommend for your name. Take your name and try this strategy, and then let me know how it works for you. Next, we're going to talk about your show description. Now, your show description is often very important. And also, what I've noticed and realized with other creators and other podcasters is that it's actually very overlooked, because your show description should share what your show is about. It should share the frequency of your episodes and what people are going to learn from your podcast. It's the gateway in between your potential listener landing on your show and having them subscribe to your podcast. So how you create this show description is, I want you to think about the mission for your podcast. And your mission is, who is it serving and why should they care? So when you can answer those two questions, now you get the mission for your podcast. And using that mission statement, you can drive your episode description, your intro, your outro, your show trailer, all of the above. So it's really, really, really important to dial in on the mission statement of your podcast and understand the why behind your podcast, so that you can then take the content and apply it to your intro, to your outro, to your trailer, and to your show description. And so by doing that, you are creating a show description that is answering the question of your ideal listener, and you're taking the guessing game out of what's in it for me type of thing. Now, I want to leave you with a little bit of a pro tip here. Use keywords in your copy that people are going to be searching when it comes to your topic in specific. Use all of the characters that you can when writing the show description. Don't just make it 2 lines. Fill it out, make it meaty, make it exceptional, and make it something that people will be able to relate to. The other thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you're putting a call to action at the bottom of your show description. And what that means is you're driving them somewhere else. So whether you want to drive them to your website, or to your Instagram, or to your TikTok, or to a free download, you want to make sure that you have those links directly in there so that people know how they can find you and how they can connect with you. And you can also put a Patreon link in there too if you want, or any paid membership information that you have too. So creating the description for your show is really important, because again, it drives so much of what you're doing, which is key. And it's creating this like synergy between you and your listener, where they're feeling like they're already heard before they even listen to your podcast. So really important tip there. Let me know what you think about this one. Leave me a comment below if this resonates with you, if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're listening to the podcast, leave me a rating and a review so I can hear what you think about this tip, or you can connect with me on social media. Now, let's consider what to include in your intro, outro, trailer, and your music. Your trailer is a very important piece of your podcast launch strategy. This piece of content is very often overlooked. And it's sad to say that it is often overlooked, because it really is the window into your show. It's the deciding factor if someone will subscribe to your podcast or not. And it also allows them to see and to learn and to hear what you want them to know about your podcast. It's a place where you can go and you can share a little bit about how you got here, give people a sneak peek into your journey. Tell them and share with them what is important for them to know about your podcast. Put that in the trailer. And you're going to want to keep this piece of content to 1 to 2 minutes long, okay? Now, you can also use your trailer, especially if you're filming it with a video, to promote at your podcast launch. You can create a reel out of it. You can use it as a YouTube short. You can use it on TikTok. There are so many different uses for this piece of content. You can also run ads to it, and you can have it on your website, on your podcast landing page, to give people a little bit of an insight and look and see at what they're going to get when they're listening to your show. Now, let's talk about your intro. The intro to your show is a little bit about you, and it's a little bit about what they're going to learn on the podcast. I want you to draw this from your show description, and I want you to keep it concise, about 30 seconds or so max. Another trend that people are starting to do with intros is just using like a whoosh sound or like a sting in between, and having that as like a very, very, very short piece of content, like 10 seconds, 5 seconds, to signify the start of the podcast. So this piece of content is really, really cool. There's a lot that you can do with your intro. And actually, in my membership program, I have scripts that you can pull from and templates that you can pull from in order to help you draft your intro, outro, trailer, and your show description. So that might actually be really helpful for you if you're kind of struggling on what to write or how to word it or how to phrase it. Next is your outro, and that is your call to action of your podcast. What do you want them to do next? Do you want them to rate? Do you want them to review? Do you want them to subscribe? You want to give them something to do. Do you want them to take your quiz or go to your website or download your freebie, join your membership? What do you want people to do next? You got to tell them. That is really, really, really key. One thing I want to remind you though too here in this piece of content is that it's really important to thank your listener for listening to your podcast and giving them thanks and making sure that they know how grateful you are that they tuned into this podcast episode. So always add in a little bit of a thank you there as well. And another pro tip for your outro is making sure that you are talking to one person. This is just a pro tip in general when you're recording a podcast, but making sure that you're talking to one person. So like, hi, friend, I appreciate you. Thank you, instead of you all, or thank you all for listening, or thank you all for being here, or what have you. Because you have to remember when you're creating your podcast that you're talking to one person in specific because you have one listener on the back end of your microphone, right? So always making sure that you are picturing your one listener that comes to mind every time you sit down and record your podcast. So these are my tips for your intro, your outro, and your trailer and your show description. So definitely let me know what you think about those. Let me know how this resonates with you. Again, the scripts for that you can find in my membership, which is only $11 a month or $121 a year. And the link for that is in the show notes below. So be sure to check that out. And thank you very much for being here on this podcast episode with me. I hope that it was so super helpful to hear this content and to have it broken down. If you have any questions or if you have anything that you'd like me to address directly or to talk about directly on the podcast, please let me know because I am so happy to answer all of your questions. And it brings me so much joy to know what you're wanting to learn more of. So with that, I hope you have an amazing day ahead, amazing week ahead. Thank you so much for being here today. And I cannot wait to see you on the next one. Thanks.